Hey everyone, welcome back to an all new episode of the 20% podcast. This is the show where we bring you tips and tricks from industry professionals across all industries that you can implement in your current job today. I'm your host, Tyler McKee, and this is episode 148 of the 20% podcast. Now, there's been a common theme over the past episodes. And today, I wanted to share the top 5 episodes by listens of the 20% podcast and give you the top lesson that I learned from each guest as well. Now, there are some common themes with all of these guests on the show, the top 5, many of which have overcome significant amounts of adversity to get to where they are today. Let's start with number 5. He's the co-host and co-founder of 30 Minutes to President's Club, Mr. Nick Cegelski.
Number 1 is get to the truth. It's somebody, I learned that from Corey Bray from Closed Loop. I'm most interested with my prospects in getting to the truth, sharing the truth and getting the truth from them. If this isn't a fit right now, that's okay. I want to know that because I want to reallocate my time to talk to other prospects who it might be a fit for. That's number 1. Number 2, I don't know who I learned this from, but I rely on the magic device that I call the phone way more than email. And I don't know who I learned it from, so I can't attribute it, but I try to spend as little time as possible in email because the phone is a faster, more effective, more complete way to obtain and communicate information. If somebody emails me, I call them. I'd rather have a conversation. I don't know if I got a number 3. I would go back to the wrestling thing, which is discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. Sometimes you got to be tough.
Getting to the truth, using the phone, and having discipline of doing the things that you don't want to do when you don't want to do them is crucial for everybody to learn, and you could use it no matter what job you do. Okay, let's hear from number 4, Erik, McKee.
I have been absolutely blown away by how impactful the LinkedIn community has been for SaaSBros. I just did not expect how much the community would embrace us and be willing to support us. So I think the best thing that we've done is that commitment to just build in public and be authentic and be transparent and invite people into our wins and losses. Like, there is a true community of people, not just the folks in our talent collective who are looking for jobs, but there are sales leaders, there are founders, there are guys like you who want SaaSBros to be successful. Like, even seeing people post pictures of the hoodie, I'm getting tagged on posts where people are working through the playbook every day. I just did not expect the community-led growth that we've experienced. And I think that goes back to my time with the nonprofit, where, I spent all day, every day, building relationships and building this movement that could go beyond just me as an individual.
Yeah, dude. And it's so crazy. And you guys are so intentional with everything you're doing with building that brand. And I think that, to the point of the nonprofit stuff, personal brands are so great because of the community that you could build as a result of that. People feel bad when you saw that the couple $100 loss on the sweatshirts. I'm like, oh man, but you know what? They're going to learn something about that. I'm still rooting for these guys, right? Like that you're just putting the stuff that you're putting out attracts your tribe, right? I think the vibe attracts the tribe or something, if you want to be, I think another guest said that previously, but I am so bullish on the community aspect of business now. I think it's just shifting. And I think that you guys it's almost riding the perfect tidal wave of building those relationships, getting the community and getting people bought in, because then people, like, for example, if you reached out to me or you reached out to a number of people who are also in that same tribe, you're giving so much to other people that it's like Gary V's jab, 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 right hook, right? You're not asking, you're giving. And then when you have an ask, people are saying, yo, Erik, I got you, man. Darren, no problem.
Yeah.
How important is that for your business?
That is the business. That's the reason I left Gravy. I am betting on the deposits that we've made for 3 years, and the community to be there when I make the withdrawal. I think, hopefully we've been transparent enough to where people understand that SaaSBros isn't like $100,000 business right now. We've made some money with the playbook. We've made some money doing coaching, but we have not made money in regards to recruiting, which I think is the real business model moving forward.
Right. I agree.
I left my job without having proven that out. I mean, we've done it for free for 30 plus people, and we have, hiring companies that we've been working with, but it's a different ballgame when you're sending over a contract and saying, hey, I'm not going to send over any more candidates until we get this deal done. That we have not proven out that, but I'm betting on the deposits that we made in the community to really show up for us and sort of help us figure that out.
I love this clip because building in public led to the community that Darren and Erik were able to make. And that ultimately allowed them to gain more supporters. They were giving all of these deposits over the past couple of years, and now they were finally able to withdraw that as well, which I think is really important when you're building brand. I think it's also unbelievable, but that when this clip was over a year ago. So big shout out to Darren and Erik. You guys are doing incredible things at SaaSBros, and really excited to continue and support you throughout this entire process as well. All right, let's hear from number 3. This is Jen Allen.
Yeah, so it actually started out of necessity. So last year in the beginning of the year, our team split into hunters and farmers, and then key accounts and major accounts. So I was a hunter in our large enterprise space. We called it key. And very quickly in January, I realized the amount of leads I was getting out of marketing was never going to be enough inbound to get me to where I wanted to be. And so I started kind of like becoming more active on LinkedIn and posting, and then joining podcasts and stuff like that. And then as I was doing it, it wasn't with the intention to sell or commercialize Challenger. I was just passionately speaking about the things that I had learned as a result of going through Challenger and the mistakes I had made and how it taught me to behave differently. And then all of a sudden, I would start getting these inbounds from very senior executives on LinkedIn. And I would say, it's really curious, like, why wouldn't they just go to our website and fill out a form? And actually, there was one that came in from a gentleman I used to work with years ago when I was an account manager. And I asked him that. I said, why didn't you just go fill out the form? And he said, because I have no idea who's going to be on the other end of that form. I have no idea if it's going to be some super aggressive rep. I know you because I know your perspective, and I see that it aligns with the problems that I face. I see that you get me, even though you don't even know I'm looking at you. And so that became really exciting to me because I said, gosh, if I can actually impact for our company how many senior executives consider Challenger, forget about whether they buy it or not, but like how many people even just like add it to the consideration set, that would be so rewarding above and beyond any individual goal that I could carry. And so by virtue of doing it, what it allowed me to do is to go back to our CEO, and I think it was like October, November, and say, look, I know this job title sounds crazy. I know we don't have this today. I know you're probably like, how is this different from marketing? But by doing this stuff off the side of my desk while I'm carrying a bag, here are the deals I was able to influence or originate. Now imagine if I could do this as like 75% of my job. And so I used resources online. I looked at Guy Kawasaki had a description of evangelism. I look at Dan Steinman's description, and I just sort of pieced together and said, look, in year one, I'm not these dudes. I'm not going to have people knocking down my door being like, will you present at my sales kickoff? That's going to take some time. So I thought about, how can I evangelize Challenger inside of Challenger? How can I provide lift on learning and development? And so what I did is, instead of asking the CEO to make this big leap and investment into something that, like, maybe would work out, maybe wouldn't, I said, why don't we take a kind of staged approach? I'll keep a bag next year, but instead of, 75% of the time selling and 25% of the time evangelizing, let's flip that. And then we'll see if it works, but let's align on like what measures you want me to affect. So we ended up with things like leads, with, affinity for the company, with, renewal rate of our existing clients by leaning in there. And so by structuring that, and by the way, I'm happy to share with any listeners, if you're curious about this job, I can do the same thing I did with Tyler and share it.
Yes. Go connect with Jen Allen, Jen Allen at Challenger. And we'll link her LinkedIn in the show notes as well.
Yes. Thank you. But I did that. And candidly, I could have seen a lot of CEOs just saying no. But I'm really fortunate to work for a company that has a really innovative, open-minded leadership team. And she said, what's the worst can happen? Let's do it for a year and see what happens. So it was like part of what I was proud of myself for is I'd never before asked for a job that didn't exist. My only advice, if I could go back to past self, would be, don't feel so much like you have to do the job before you're paid for it. Like, do it to make sure you like it, have some performance measures, but I really should have asked for that job back in July, not in November. And I think that's something, especially for us women in sales, that we tend to feel like we need to prove ourselves before we ask for something. That's the only thing I'd probably change about it.
All right. I consider Jen one of the OGs in the evangelist movement. She was doing her own marketing while she was at Challenger after even creating the role, which I think was really incredible. It's no secret why she's crushing it at Lavender in her marketing role now. Okay, let's hear from number 2, Mr. Ian Koniak.
Number one piece of advice I would give is instead of measuring the outcomes as a like percentage of quota or your net worth or your W-2 or whatever, like those are long-term outcomes. What I do and what I've shifted to, and it makes me feel great every day, is I measure my output, not my outcomes. Okay. So most people feel bad about themselves because they are not doing what they know they need to be doing, whether it's in sales, prospecting, whether it's in life, exercising, whether it's, spending time with those they love, right? When there is a disconnect between what your ideals are in terms of how and what you're doing and what your actuals are, you are out of alignment, is what it's called, being out of alignment. When you are doing every day, everything you can in the areas that matter most, and you're executing, you have nothing to feel bad about. So I'd say the best piece of advice is win the day. Win the day. Think about the 2 or 3 things that you want to do today that you need to get done. Get those in your calendar. And when you do them, right, you can feel good about yourself knowing you have done all you can. Like I coach a lot of people, dozens of people, and I see this all the time where people are avoiding the things that they know they need to do. They're procrastinating. They're, because they're uncomfortable, right? Having difficult conversations, uncomfortable. Reach out to executives, trying to advance deals, or going over your champion head. That stuff's uncomfortable.
I reference this quote on a weekly basis. Really trying to focus on the correct outputs is something you should be doing every single day. All right. Finally, number 1, here is Anthony Natoli.
Wasn't doing things for myself. I stopped working out. And I got myself into a hole with money and debt, and I gained a bunch of weight between, the ages of 24 and really like 27. Those 3 years, I was like going down a path that was like just digging a hole and digging a hole and digging a hole. And I think for me, there was a specific day and time. I remember it like it was yesterday, where I was home. We were at a mid-year for demand base. I was in AE. We did it in New York City. My parents live in New Jersey. I was home. It was hot. My clothes just didn't fit anymore. And I was uncomfortable and so insecure. And I just like broke down in my parents' kitchen. I was just like, I'm in a lot of trouble with money. I'm super overweight and I just can't live or think like this anymore. And it was real. And I wouldn't put what the thoughts were going on in my head on my worst enemy. And it was a lot for a 26-year-old to process. Like I was young. I didn't know like what was going on. I was scared. And so, it was a typical, like, I want to change, but I'm not ready. So like I continued down that path a little bit. And then I think, December 2019, I really decided to kind of put down my shovel. It was the December after that summer. So it was a few months after I decided to put down my shovel, stop digging, and really start down a path of, going to therapy, starting to manage my money better, try to figure out a plan to get myself out of debt. And then 2020 comes, pandemic hits. I truly believe like there's obviously a ton of bad that came out of the pandemic, but it allowed me to leave San Francisco, which I think I should have a couple of years prior, to move back home with my family, which allowed me to save money, which allowed me to be closer to my mom, who's really into fitness and working out, and develop a plan for weight loss. So I was like, you know what, like, just like I did with the, getting promoted, like I'm going to take the bulls by the horn and control what I can. I'm going to read all the books that I need. I'm going to go to my therapy. I'm going to work out even when I don't feel like it. And I started down this path of thinking and living a different life for myself. And as the days went on and I took consistent action, then the results started to come. I started to save money. I paid off one credit card. Then I paid off personal loan. And then boom, the other credit card's almost paid. And then 3 months later, I'm down 20 pounds. And I don't get there without building discipline, without having support system around me. And I started to like feel my brain rewiring. It was like this new person was born, because up until that point for 26 years, my brain perceived things and how I should act and live a completely different way that wasn't healthy. It was toxic. And so by going down this path of, wanting to better myself and live a better life, I started to discover like who Anthony really is as a person, what excites him, where are his areas of like flaws. So like I understood like, hey, I'm actually a really insecure person. And a lot of what I put on is like kind of a mask and a facade, doing all this stuff to please other people, to try to get validation from others and external sources of happiness, and chasing money and chasing materialistic things. I realized like that stuff doesn't really ever make you happy or fulfilled. You always want more. And so, I went down that path these last 3 years, and, I lost the weight. I got out of my debt. I moved into my own place in New York City. I actually live in Hoboken, which is right across the river in New York City. I hit President's Club at Demand Base. I left Demand Base after 3.5 years there. I love the people at Demand Base. I love my time at Demand Base. And now I'm at Outreach, where, I'm 60 pounds lighter. I'm debt-free, building my life in the positive. And if I look back at these 3 years, the reason why I'm this, I have these like Buddha-esque type concepts about life is because like, man, I've been through some stuff, and I want to share my story and give back the lessons that I've learned the hard way. Because going through those hard things has allowed me to be grateful for those times and for what I have now. And so now I have awareness of what I don't want my life to be like. I never want to go back there. So it allows me to stay grounded and grateful for what I have now. And I feel that I've gotten myself out of this hole. It's my duty to share the mindset hacks and the mindset shifts that I had to make to get to where I got. Because I think things like paying off debt, losing weight, doing well professionally, but feeling fulfilled are all things that take a lot of work. And so if I can share some of the ways that I got there, then, that's really impactful to me. So
Anthony's story is unbelievable. It's all about overcoming adversity and really just controlling what you could control. So discipline, building in public, giving more than you receive, doing more than your job title, focusing on your outputs and controlling what you control are all the major lessons of today's episode. And these are transferable across any skill, any place where you're working today. These are all incredible humans. And a final thing that I noticed about all of these guests is that they're willing to go above and beyond for their clients, and all are willing to give more than they receive. Really fortunate to be friends with these folks, and really excited to have shared these conversations with you all as well. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the top 5 episodes of the 20% podcast and the biggest lessons that I learned. If there are any guests that you'd like to listen or hear from on the show, please don't hesitate to reach out, send them my way. I'm more than happy to get them on the show. See you guys for now, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you enjoyed the show, it would mean the absolute world if you went to Apple and rated and reviewed the show for me as well, as this is a fantastic way to help grow the show and help to bring in fantastic guests and even more listeners to our tribe. So stay tuned for next episode and have a fantastic rest of your day.